Looks like we're live.
Are we live? I still see a spinner.
Oh, there we go.
And we're live.
Hello.
Awesome. Welcome to the launch party for Drindél the Winged One. This is my lovely wife, Michelle. She's joining me.
Hello.
And we're really excited. The book just released, or the novella just released today. It's available for purchase. And you can easily jump on your Kindle right here. And as you see, you can log in. Sorry, they got a little glare there. But you can find it and go ahead and purchase it. It's $2.99. It's a short story novella, 76 pages. So I think we were going to start with having a few questions.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and do some questions, some that we thought of and some that have been submitted. So we'll go ahead and run through some of those. And if you have any that you want to ask as we go along, go ahead and submit those. And we can answer those as we go along. And also, if you're watching this on the replay, you're welcome to submit questions on the comments, and you will answer those through comment. So, okay, first question about the new novella. What is it about? Tell us a little bit.
It's about the creation of a new race, a winged race of humans that can fly, and how they're created, and about the fairy and her power to create them.
Okay, awesome. So where did the idea for creating a new race of winged ones come from?
All right, well, when I was young, 17, 18, I was really certain I was going to be a sci-fi fantasy writer, more epic fantasy than anything, and I created an epic fantasy world. I drew a map. I know everybody loves maps. If there's not a map in an epic fantasy book, it's not going to be good, right? But no, I have a cool map. So this story came from that world. Obviously, that story that I wrote when I was 18, it's never going to see the light of day. It wasn't good. Not a lot of stories people write for the first time are, but the world was worth delving more into. And I really liked the winged race that I created in that world. So I wrote a novella about the creation of the winged race.
Okay. So, you kind of already talked about when you first wrote the story. So why a novella?
Well, I was asked to write a short story, and I failed. So it was supposed to be like 5,000 to 10,000 words, and it ended up being 76 pages. So 76 pages is more like 17,000 words and quite a bit longer than a short story.
So you're too long-winded for a short story.
I am too long-winded.
Too many details. Okay, so will you ever expand on it and make this become a novel?
You know, I hope I do something more in the world. I'm not sure if it'll be this or more, but I've always loved that world that I created. And, you know, it's a great world. It's really cool. And there's a lot of stories that could be told from it. But I also have a lot of stories outside that world, so it's hard to know if I'll ever get there.
All right. So what was the very first thing that you ever published?
Oh, that was a poem. I published a poem, and I even have that right here. This is a magazine called Leading Edge, and in here I published, it's falling apart, so forgive me, I published The Sentinel. It's a poem about a gargoyle. I was paid $10. First thing I was ever paid to publish. Awesome. I never cashed the check.
Breaking the bank.
I was supposed to frame the check, but now I don't know where it is. I hope I can find it. I didn't find it when we moved. We just moved to a new home, and I was hoping it would show up and I could frame it and put it in my new office in my new home, but I haven't seen it show up yet.
It's probably one of those boxes in the closet. The one room we haven't unpacked, the office. Okay. So how is the Trinity of Mind book 3 coming along?
Oh, book 3? So the first draft, I'm really, really excited about, the base of the story. I'm about 5 chapters into editing it, and the editing is going really well. I did pause the editing a little bit. I felt like I needed to step away for just a second, and kind of have a separation from it for a couple weeks before I go back to, my second draft. So I'm actually working on a secret project, a new story that I haven't ever worked on before, that I have been really excited about. It's just been floating in my head for years. In the meantime.
Awesome. Well, Sarah and Neil are really impressed by your big check. By your $10. Awesome. Hi, guys. And hi to Ryan. All right. So does Trinity of Mind number 3 have a title yet?
Yes and no. I am fairly certain I know exactly what the title is going to be. I am not ready to share it yet. But there will probably be a title reveal followed by a cover reveal coming at some point, probably after the first edit. Or not the first edit, the second draft. I haven't sent it to an editor yet, but that'll happen.
Okay. Any special hints you want to give to our friends?
Hints. For book 3, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas.
Neil's been to Vegas with us. He knows. No.
Oh, yep, I do. I see Neil Carter online. Neil's one of my friends, and we went to Vegas a couple of years ago for CES. And, the secret project I'm working on has a lot to do with, it's more science fiction than fantasy, and has a lot to do with, not the tech we saw at CES, but it has to do with tech.
Nice. Okay, let's see, what else? Okay. This is one that I just want to throw out there. Which character in the Trinity of Mind series do you connect with the most?
Ooh. Well, it's the main character. I mean, that's why I wrote the book. I've just always wanted magic to be real. I mean, who doesn't? Who hasn't? Everybody in our genre, that's half the reason they read these books. And the idea of bringing a character who lived in Utah to life and giving them magic and having them be able to blow up a monster with a magic missile. The magic missile that we've grown up in every single video game and Dungeons and Dragons and all the games we play. The magic missile is one of the first cool spells you use to attack. And to have a character do that and put it in a real life, real world setting was just so exciting for me.
Okay. So in the novella, it's a winged species. So if you could sprout wings and fly anywhere, where would you fly?
If I could fly anywhere? Anywhere. I would probably fly you to Hawaii a lot more.
Oh, hey, that sounds good to me. Except for if we're like the people who got turned away from Maui with the wrong COVID test. Let's not do that.
Oh, turned away. Make sure you have a negative test, people, before you head to Hawaii.
Maybe if you had wings.
Speaking of Hawaii, we just got back from Oceanside, California, which isn't the same, but it has a beach.
Yes, very nice.
We were there with all of my wife's family. It was a lot of fun, and I got a couple hours of writing in while I was there, but not a lot.
A little bit on the plane?
And a little bit on the plane, yeah.
Great. Well, shall I think of some more wonderful things to ask you, or will I embarrass you with my
I don't know.
questions? Okay. Tell us why wings?
Why wings?
Out of all the, characteristics you could give to a human, why wings? Why not?
I have
Sea
always
life
been
or-
fascinated by birds. I grew up not in the city. I know I'm in the city now, but I grew up on just acres and acres of farmland with cows and a horse ranch, and I used to watch. It was owls or eagles or hawks. I used to watch them just reach out, grab birds out of the air, rabbits off the ground. I've always been fascinated with birds, and just because this one time I was sitting on top of our house because we were redoing the brick and of our fireplace. I just remember watching this owl pull this pigeon, just chased it and pulled it right out of the air, and a couple feathers kind of exploded everywhere, and the ability for the owl to just fly and be so powerful is something that I think has all of us as humans have kind of longed for. We can walk, we can run, we're more intelligent, but man, those birds can fly. Not to mention when anyone asks, what superpower do you want? Isn't flying always one of them? Like almost every time.
For sure.
And, I'm not so sure that scientifically I can believe in like the Superman power of flying, where there's just really no power involved. You just can fly. Whereas wings, are scientifically accurate and make sense, and they work. And I wanted to create a race where that happened.
Awesome. Well, I know a couple have joined since we started, so if you have any questions, you're welcome to submit them in the comments, or if you're watching it on the replay, submit them and he can he can answer them in the comments. Oh, okay. So a minute ago we talked about leading edge, and this is something I wanted him to clarify because I was like, I don't know if everyone knows what that is. So this was wrong side. There you go. This was where his first poem was published, and so talk a little bit about what leading edge is, so that people know.
Leading Edge is a sci-fi fantasy magazine that is published. It's published by BYU. And sponsored by BYU. I went to BYU from 99 to 2004. I know 6 years. That's because I went at night because I was working full time. But I started attending Leading Edge, and what we got to do there was we got to read slush, stories that other people sent in. I remember my first semester there. I just started reading things, and I remember thinking, these stories are terrible, until you got one that wasn't. And it was pretty rare, like 1 in 20 was well written. But it really helped me know what good writing was versus bad writing. And Leading Edge is really popular. A lot of authors, were part of Leading Edge. My first semester in Leading Edge, an author walked in, maybe day 2 or 3 that I was there. He had just signed some deal, and I thought, whatever, he probably won't be big. He was a big author, and he's not the only one. So part of the reason I went to Leading Edge is I took a class from David Wolverton at BYU. It's a creative writing, science fiction, and fantasy focused course. And it's a really popular class. In fact, the author that walked into Leading Edge in my first semester now teaches it. My first semester at Leading Edge. So the class is awesome. and Leading Edge was awesome. And combined, I got a lot of education about, how to write better, what makes good writing. And, I got to help. Not only am I published in here, my name shows up somewhere, and, as, there we are, where am I? As the assistant fiction director. There we go. I know that's terrible. But I had to use a pseudonym to submit my poem, so they didn't know it was me. And I was really surprised when I won. I think it's published under Joshua Jacobs. That's my my brother's name, my two brothers' names. Josh and Jacob. So I just used both their names as my pseudonym at the time, so they wouldn't know it was me. Well, because I was like on the team.
Yeah.
So I couldn't just
submit it under yourself.
Submit it under myself and then have some type of conflict of interest. But Leading Edge is awesome, and David Wolverton was part of it. I believe Orson Scott Card was part of it. The number of authors that have been part of it, I could go on and on just naming them. Obviously Brandon Sanderson was part of it, and hopefully I can have even a small amount of success some of those have had.
I went to one of those meetings and I was dreadful.
That's right.
Everyone made fun of me because I am not a...
When we were engaged, Michelle went.
He is the writer.
I have to tell this story.
I am not the fantasy writer.
Hilarious.
No, don't.
Oh, I'm so going to tell.
Don't think I'm ridiculous.
So I'm going to Leading Edge all the time, and Michelle and I got engaged, so I wanted her to come with me, and I asked her to come. So we're sitting there reading Slush, and all of a sudden she just kind of raises her hand, really shy-like, and is like, "What's a druid?"
No, it was mage.
Oh, mage. What's a mage?
Oh, mage.
and just looking at the faces around,
Obviously
everybody in the room was
world.
like, what is she doing here if she doesn't know what a mage is? It was on everybody's faces.
I didn't go back.
So, I nicely explained to her it was a magic user, like a wizard. And,
yep.
Just with slight differences that I didn't go into.
Yes. Anyway,
Great
moving
experience.
on. Yes. Well, I don't know about that. Okay, another question. How do you, or what inspires you to write? Or where do you find your inspiration for your different pieces?
I grew up reading. I lived in the middle of nowhere and didn't have a ton of, there were no friends around me. The nearest friend from my school lived 4 miles away. And that's a long way to ride your bike. And it was just all cow, grassland where cows fed. So I didn't have the ability to just run next door and play. So I spent a lot of time reading. I read Lord of the Rings in, 5th grade. Before that, I read, in 3rd grade, I read a lot. I remember reading, Where the Red Fern Grows, Summer of the Monkeys. And then I got into the Three Investigators around 4th grade. Read 40 of those books. And then once I read Lord of the Rings, I never really left fantasy after that. I moved to the Shannara books. I moved to David Eddings. I moved to Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman, and it just kept going. And by the time I was 16, I really had a desire to be a writer. I just loved it. I enjoyed it, and I think part of it is I really like to imagine, and what good is imagining if you're not sharing it with someone? And so I imagine things all the time, and then I share them.
Awesome. And I know that he really loves writing because I'll find that, me and the kids will be around or whatever doing things after dinner or whatnot, and all of a sudden he'll disappear and I'll think, wait a minute, where'd Daddy go? And I'm like, oh, He probably went upstairs to write. So he escapes and doesn't tell anyone so that we won't go searching.
Yep.
So that he can have a minute of quiet because it's a little bit crazy and noisy around here with 4 kids. So
It is. It does get crazy.
yes. Let's see, what else? Who would you say is your favorite character that you have developed out of all of the things you've written thus far?
Oh, the favorite character I developed? Developing a character is really hard. I actually like Kendra the best as for developing characters. So she's this blonde drill team girl. She's in the Trinity of Mind series, and I got to be honest, when I first started writing her, it was kind of probably I was going about it the wrong way. I recently watched something where it was explaining about how when you write a character, you might get stuck making a trope or making a just a character to fill a role. And I remember when I first started writing her, I felt like I was just filling a role. And then I did a little more pre-writing and realized that she was kind of more amazing than just a role. And when I first started writing the Trinity of Mind, it wasn't Trinity of Mind. It was just like Jake blows a monster up with a magic missile. What else is around it? And it was really Kendra who made me decide to make multiple main characters. I mean, obviously it's still out, from the point of view of Jake, but really Jake, Kendra, and Alexis become the 3 main characters. And Kendra was really the inspiration around it all. And, making her a real person, making her have feelings. And I think, and sometimes I feel like I still did her a disservice in book 1 and book 2, but another hint in book 3 is I think she really steps it up. And I think you're really going to like how she behaves and what she does in book 3.
Cool. Okay, do you want to give any teasers on the novella, like maybe a little something about it or about what happens?
Well,
or do you want me to read the description? That's not it.
One of the things that I really like is my new opening. A lot of people don't realize this, but we don't always write things in order as authors. Sometimes we write the ending first and then work backwards. With Trinity of Mind, I wrote the magic missile scene first and then build a story around it, and then decided to build a world further around that. So with, I might have it here. Hold on, let me pull up my story on my trusty Kindle. There we go. All right. Oh, I can't. Too many lights. Okay. You guys can see the cover. We all love our Kindles. I really like print as well, but my wife doesn't like me to have a light on at night. So what I do is I turn it on so I have white text on a black background, so she doesn't so she doesn't go blind and she can fall asleep. But I really like the end of the first little section. I guess it's not really, they're not really full chapter length chapters, but I have them kind of marked as 1, 2, 3, kind of like you would with chapters. They're a lot shorter, but just at the very end it says, "He knew he should never return to the fairy grove. He vowed to himself he never would. Then he heard the whisper again, 'Come back to me.' Despite a compelling desire to obey, he kicked at his horse's side and rode away." And I really, really like the first chapter and how it builds this like ominous, there is this woman, this her, her with a capital H, some type of deity, who I think I've already let out of the bag is a fairy. And, he is afraid of her. And then you find out throughout the story, he's going to have to go back to Fairy's Grove. And, that's just, something's going to happen there as the storyline goes on. So it's just really exciting.
Cool. Well, we have a couple minutes left. Do you have any advice for people who may love writing and want some advice on maybe how to get started or how to make their writing better?
Well, yes, but it's not really my advice. So recently I just finished watching, I told you I took David Farland's course at BYU. In 2002, it was a creative writing, science fiction, and fantasy course. It is now taught by Brandon Sanderson. You might have heard of him. He's pretty famous. I recently just feel like I just retook my class, only instead of from David Farland, it was from Brandon Sanderson, although it was on YouTube. He posted this January, February, March, April semester, I think that's winter semester. He posted every week on YouTube. So if you go to Brandon Sanderson's website, here I am, promoting another author who's already so famous he doesn't need other
He won't mind.
He doesn't need people promoting him. But he has an entire, series of basically the same class. And everything he put in there was really phenomenal. It'll get you started, and it's got a lot more than I could tell you in just a couple minutes.
Okay, awesome. Well, I think that's all the questions I have. Anything else you want to share?
No.
About the novella or secret project or any of those?
The secret project?
I don't know.
Well, I am...
It's very secret because it's secret for me. I don't know what he's talking about.
No, I told you when you asked me if I was working on book 3 and I said no.
That's right.
I'm working on a new story.
Okay, I do know what it is. I lied.
Well, I told you it was more about technology, but just we all remember the famous quote, right? Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. Anyway.
Okay, very cool. Well, this has been fun. Thank you so much for joining us. And any questions or fun feedback, or if you want to say hi or whatever, please do so. We didn't scroll down. Look at all of these. Oh my gosh. Well, we missed all your stuff. Let's see. Okay, question from Neil. How long does it take you to write one of your books, specifically your newest?
When I actually start writing them, well, it can take weeks to months. My first draft I wrote a short story, and that took me a couple weeks. Then when I actually turned it into a novel, it took me about 4 weeks. And once it was done, it took me about 5 months to edit and get ready to publish. And that's for novel 2, I got a master's in between, and had, multiple kids, and I didn't really work on it, but if you count the time I worked on it, it was about the same. It took about that long, about 5 months of work. And book 3, I probably wrote it in about 8 weeks. It took a little longer.
Okay. Ryan asked, are your books on Audible?
They aren't yet. But, I can't afford somebody to read them for me, but I just bought this really kind of expensive, I put foam around it.
With a pin.
I put this foam around it because it helps dim the P's when you go So, and I've been reading about at least reading them myself and making them available.
Okay. And Sarah asked, what is the key conflict in the new novella? Did you already say that?
Oh, in the new novella, the key conflict is the king has just died, and every time the king dies, a successor is declared, and the successor picks the first lord, and the first lord gets the dagger of Jerath, which is a symbol that he is the first lord, that if there's any wars, it's kind of like the main general to the king, and it's a highly prestigious position with a lot of power. And the current first lord wants to find a way to remain the first lord. And
Of course.
he is going to be sneaky in doing so, and he hires a thief, and so that's what kicks the whole story off.
Cool. All right, awesome. Well, thanks so much for everybody joining us, and I love all your comments. I'm like laughing reading them all now since we didn't scroll for a minute and missed some of them right in the timing. So thank you so much for joining us, and any last words?
Hey, thanks for being fans, guys.
All right. Catch you next time.
Yep. And make sure you let your friends know all about, that you probably know someone who likes to read science fiction and fantasy, so share. The best way to help an author is word of mouth. Thanks, guys.
That's right. All right. Night.
All right. See you all. Bye.